but I'll just use one whole one. And save those for another use. Make some banana pudding or something. Whatever you want to do will be fine. Let me get these out of my way. Then, in this container, I have 2 blocks of cream cheese that I've brought to room temperature. This is full-fat cream cheese. I'm going to add some vanilla. I'm going to add some sugar, just regular old sugar. If your sugar gets clumpy, and it does tend to do that, just break it up a little bit with your fingers. We're going to mix it, but I like to break it up to start with. Then I've got 2 eggs. Add them. Just 2 regular eggs. And then you can do this in a blender if you want, or I'm just going to use my mixer, my little hand mixer on low. And I want to beat all of this together. Get it incorporated first. And then what we'll do is turn it up. If you have a stand mixer, this is a great use for that. Because the cream cheese, of course, does have to be totally beaten and incorporated in with the other ingredients. This takes just a minute. It is a little easier with a stand mixer, but not everybody has one, so I wanted to show you how to do it with just a regular hand mixer. Because pretty much everybody that cooks has one of these. And then I'm going to turn it all the way up. Maybe not all the way up because I don't want to talk over it, but pretty high. And I want to beat this for about a minute, maybe even 2, until it's nice and smooth. You could add any kind of extract that you wanted to change up the flavors, but this is just plain cheesecake. You gotta beat this up pretty smooth. Scrape down my sides. Oh, that's loud. When you're in your home kitchen, it doesn't seem that loud, but when you're in a studio setting, it's quite loud. Let's do it about another minute, maybe not quite a minute. But you could add any flavor extract you wanted. I'm just using vanilla for just plain cheesecake. That way you can top it with whatever you want, or nothing at all. I think that's good enough. Okay. Take your beaters off. And let's get them in the sink. And stir it together with my little spatula. Now, I want to fill these up with this mixture. It's quite loose, which is what I want. I need to get a ice cream scoop. I hope I have one here. Let's see, I don't remember where they are. Didn't think ahead. Should have grabbed one before we started, but that's okay. Here's one. This will be perfect. These are the handiest little gadgets to have in your kitchen. I have several sizes. Obviously a bigger one for ice cream, but these little mini ones are really perfect for dishes just like this. And you want to fill these up with your cheesecake mixture. It's just easier if you have a little scoop. We're filling them up. And we're going to bake these for about 25 minutes until they're done. And you've got wonderful little mini cheesecakes. You could mix up the flavors of this by changing up what you put in the bottom too. If you don't want to use Nilla wafers, maybe you want to use some crushed up graham crackers, you can do that. Or little chocolate, what are those little chocolate wafers that you crush up? I make a cheesecake. I haven't made it with you because quite frankly it takes a while. It's quite a lengthy process to make this particular one. But I make a triple layer chocolate cheesecake that I use crushed up chocolate cookies for the crust. So you could mix this up with, you could do Oreos, you could do any kind of cookie you like. This would be really good with like pecan sandy shortbreads. Oh, I love those cookies. Those are so good with coffee. But I'm just using vanilla wafers just to make it simple. If you wanted to make this with the mini cheesecake or little mini muffin tin, excuse me, you could use little mini vanilla wafers. They sell those, the little mini tiny ones. Really kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to fill these up because they really are not going to expand. Once you get all of yours filled up almost to the top, then you can take whatever little bit of batter. You don't have much left here. This is perfect for like 12 regular size muffin tins, and fill them up. 400 degrees, about 25 minutes. I'll show you what they need to look like when we take them out. Let's get that last little bit in this one. Make sure they're all about even. And then we're going to pop these into a 400 degree oven, about 25 minutes or so, or until they are cooked through. And those are mini cheesecakes. Very, very, very simple to cook. I like to have my pan about middle ways through the, on the rack in the oven, about halfway up. If you wanted to put a baking dish of water on a rack below there, that sometimes, if you're baking larger cheesecakes, I always recommend that because the steam from the water will help set the cheesecake, but it also helps to keep the crust from cracking on top. But those are so little you don't have to do that. But if you wanted to do this and make one big one, you could crush these up and place them in the bottom of a springform pan, make that filling, and just pour it in there and bake it. You would need to bake it longer than 25 minutes. I'd say at least an hour or until it was cooked through. If you're making a bigger one, then I definitely would put a pot of water, a pan of water on a rack below that to help it along. I'm going to clean up. When I come back, we're going to get started on our deconstructed stuffed peppers. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, our cheesecakes are in the oven and we're going to get started on our main dish, which is a deconstructed stuffed pepper dish. Now, I adore stuffed peppers. One of my favorite things to eat. I love stuffed peppers. I love stuffed cabbage. Stuffed cabbage is my favorite thing to eat. But I love stuffed peppers, but they can take some time to cook. And so we're going to take the ingredients that we would use to make stuffed peppers, and we're just going to make a quicker, easy to cook, one pot meal. This could totally be made in your crock pot or your Instant Pot, but we're just going to do it on the stovetop today. In my pan, I have 1 pound of very lean ground beef. This is like 93% lean ground beef because that's all my store had. I prefer to use ground chuck. I think it has a little bit more, well, I know it has a little bit more fat. And in cooking, fat means flavor, but you use whatever kind of ground beef that you have, or whatever you want to use, or you can use ground chicken or ground turkey. You could use a mixture of ground pork and ground beef. You could use whatever kind of ground meat that you like. To that, obviously, we're going to need some peppers because this is deconstructed stuffed peppers. While that's browning, I'm going to go ahead and chop up my vegetables. I'm using 2 green peppers, because that's pretty common with stuffed peppers. But if you have a red pepper or a yellow pepper and that's what you want to use, then you go ahead and use the color that you want. I like to cut my pepper in half and then take a smaller paring knife and cut out the seeds and any of the white pithy part. I don't want that in my dish. So I cut out the core, or you can take your hands and tear that out, whatever you want to do. And then I do like to cut out these little ribs. I have a trash can by me. I always have a trash can near in the cooking area because it's just easier. If you don't, I suggest having a garbage bowl, and then you can just put your trimmings and what have you, and then you can discard it. A lot of people use those too. Now, with peppers, for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with how to cut peppers, there's a smooth side and the inside. This side is much harder to cut through. So I always cut my peppers from the inside. It just works better. And so I'm going to cut them into strips, and then I'll cut the strips in half. I don't want them too small because I want to see the pepper. So I'm just going to cut these in half, into pieces, and then cut those in half. And I'm using 2. If you have a really, really large pepper, you might want to do 1. If you have a really small pepper, you might want to use 3. You use however many you want to use. So I have these. Cut those in half. I'm just going to set those to the side. I like working on a big cutting board so that I can keep things on my stove or on my board while I'm waiting to add them to the pot. Just going to stir this up. If you don't have one of these little meat mashers, I really love this little tool. It really helps to break up the bigger clumps of meat, more so than a flat spatula. They're found everywhere. I've even found them at the Dollar Tree for $1 before. You can really get some cute little gadgets at the Dollar Tree sometimes. Not always, but some things. This is one of them. Let that go. We're going to use 1 medium onion because I put onion in my stuffed peppers. Think about the ingredients that you put in your pepper. What do you put in your stuffed peppers? Stuffed peppers, by the way, make an excellent freezer meal. One year when I was younger and lived at home, my mother grew a garden. And she always had an abundance of peppers. One year we were like, what are we going to do with all these peppers? And I just made stuffed peppers, didn't cook them, and then put them in freezer bags. And then when we were ready to cook them, take them out, thaw them if you want to, and then pop them in a slow cooker or the oven. Makes a great make-ahead dish. So I've got 1 medium onion. I'm going to kind of, not too fine, but not too big either. Just kind of a medium dice. Just let that sit while we're waiting on that. Peppers and onions, classic combo in so many, many dishes. Let's check our meat. Oop, need to move that cord before I fall. Move my mixer. Okay, let's get this going. I think that's good enough. If you have a lot of fat and drippings in the bottom, you might want to drain that. I don't have very much, so I'm not going to drain mine. I'm going to add my onion and my pepper to that. The beef was probably 90% cooked through. You could, if you wanted to take the beef out and then saute your vegetables separately, you can. Either way will work. Stir that in there. And look how beautiful that pot looks with those big chunks of pepper. You see why I did not cut them up too small? I'm just going to kind of let that go for a second. We're going to add some spices here. We're going to add some salt and some pepper and some Italian seasoning. You could mix this up and use whatever kind of seasoning that you like. I love Italian seasoning in mine. This would also be great made with Italian sausage. You can buy it in bulk in most grocery stores. Would be delicious made with bulk sausage. I'm gonna add 1 can. I like fire roasted diced tomatoes, but if you don't have fire roasted, just use regular diced tomatoes. I'm gonna add a couple of cups of water, but I'm also gonna just pour that in there and get every little bit of that tomato juice out of there. Now, we're not making a soup here. I don't want it to be too soupy, but the reason that I added a couple of cups of water is because I'm gonna add some rice. This is just 1 cup of instant rice. This actually was 2 bags of jasmine rice, and I just took it out of the bag. You don't have to use jasmine. You can use whatever kind of rice you like. I just really like jasmine rice and basmati rice. Comes in the boil in the bags too. So we're going to put that in there. Now, as that rice cooks, it's going to absorb all of that liquid. I'm going to put a lid on. I'm going to bring that up to a boil and let that simmer for about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so until the rice cooks and the vegetables are softened, and it'll be delicious. I'm going to clean this up, my mess. I'm going to check on the cheesecakes real quick. When I come back, we're going to make a delicious, refreshing salad to go alongside our deconstructed peppers and our cheesecakes. I'll be back out here in just a minute. All right, now we're going to make our salad in just a second, but I thought, I needed to refill this, and I thought, well, I'm just going to show you what I use, and this is what I do at home too. Always by my stove top, I have a little container of salt and a little container of pepper, along with my fresh pepper mills. I love pepper mills, as you probably already know. I use pretty exclusively kosher salt. I like the Mortons. I also like diamond crystals. I find diamond crystals for my area anyway a little harder to find. You have to order those, that particular brand from Amazon or somewhere, but the Mortons is fine. But I always use kosher salt in my cooking. I don't use the boxes of the pouring salt, the little fine grated. I think it has a chemical taste to it. And I definitely don't use iodized salt because I have a thyroid condition, and so I don't use any iodized salt at all. But I always use kosher salt. And I thought, some people just don't know. If you keep a little ramekin of this by your stove, it really helps. It's ease. I don't like the shakers. Again, I don't use that kind of salt. I use the kosher that you need to pinch and grab. I also use pink Himalayan salt. This is a less refined salt. It has more of your minerals and so forth in it. And I find, because I eat low carb, a lot of times you need to replace the electrolytes in your diet, and the pink Himalayan salts will help with that. So I use both. I use regular kosher and pink Himalayan. I keep it right by my stovetop. And then I always have fresh ground pepper. I do not buy ever the little pre-ground peppers. They have no flavor to me. And I have never known anyone that I have recommended, okay, you really ought to just try freshly ground pepper. I have never had a person say to me, I prefer the pre-ground stuff. It's always, wow, I didn't know there was such a difference. And so I have this is just Proctor Silex. This is just a little mini grinder. I use it only for spices. That you could also do, have one for coffee, but I use this one exclusively for spices. And I take my whole peppercorns and I put them in there and I grind them. Now, this is where you can use your own judgment. You can have it coarser ground, or you can have it fine, whatever you want. Don't grind up more than what you're going to use in, say, a week, because they do lose their flavor once they're ground. So let's just grind these up real quick. I like to kind of shake it up and then just let it go for about a minute. I like it more coarse than fine, but I don't want any huge chunks of peppercorn. And I think that's good. So you can turn it upside down, this particular one, and then just take if I can get it off of there, come on you. And then you've got freshly ground pepper. You see how that just is not so coarse, but not so fine. You've got some little finer chunks, and then some of the chunks are a little coarser. That's exactly the way I like it. And so there's my salt and pepper refill. These are staples in my kitchen and in everybody's kitchen, really. But if you'll just try fresh ground, they even sell at the grocery store now in the spice aisle. If you don't have a pepper grinder, and I love pepper mills, real quick, I'll just show you mine. Just a couple of them. I have like 5 of them back here. I love them. I collect pepper mills. I just love the different wood. If you don't have a fresh pepper mill, this I don't even think has any peppercorns in it. They sell the little grinders that are like $1, $2, and you can, I don't remember the brand, but you just turn them upside down and it's freshly ground pepper. I just think this is pretty. It has a different pink peppercorns, green peppercorns, the pink Himalayan salt. This is actually a Turkish grinder. I just think it's cool. I have one at home that you can take off the top, but this one you fill, and then you just do this to grind. I just think they're pretty. I love pepper mills. If you have any ideas of different pepper mills, let me know what you think. I just love them. I don't know why I love them, but I love them. I love pepper mills. Have one over here. Got 2 really big tall ones back there. 2 right there. Got a bunch at home. Got some more down here. I just love them. But anyway, that's my pepper. Now, for our salad, I have here just some plain Greek yogurt, and I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. Now, if you don't like the look of black peppercorns, you can use white peppercorns. I don't mind seeing black specks, so I'm going to add a little bit of our freshly ground pepper, and I'm going to make the dressing for this. This salad would be so good with so many different things. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Stir that together. I'm also going to chop up let's talk about the cucumber here. I have 1 English cucumber. If you have summer fresh cucumbers, oh my goodness, by all means, use those garden cucumbers. There is nothing better, but this is what I have, and I did not do a good job cutting that in half. Whew. Did not do a good job at all. Oh, I love the smell of these things. I could just eat cucumbers, and I do quite often. So good. So you want to cut it in half, and then cut little moons. If you want to scrape out the seeds, go right ahead. I don't mind the seeds. They don't bother me. If you're using a wax cucumber, the regular ones that you buy in the grocery store, you will need to peel those because they're coated with a wax substance that you don't want to eat. But these aren't. I don't even think you need to wash these. You can if you want to. I don't typically. And that's it. We're going to put those, and I don't know where my little scooper went. Somewhere. My spoon's down in my bowl. just add our cucumbers to our Greek yogurt, and we're going to add some fresh mint. This is so versatile. If you don't have mint, you could use dried. It's not as good. But this is just fresh mint leaves. You don't need too much because this stuff is potent. This is great for tea. My mother grew fresh mint. My sister now has Mom's mint because she lives in her house. I actually was down there the other day and I picked some of the mint that my mama grew and make tea out of them because my mother made the best tea. But you just want to chop this up and then put this in your cucumber salad. It's delicious, I promise you. And then stir it all together, and that's it. Let it chill for just a minute, and you will have a delicious, delicious salad. All righty, everything is done. Here is our delicious cucumber salad, our wonderful deconstructed stuffed peppers. That's got your vegetables, it's got your meat, everything. I would just serve it with maybe some buttered bread. You really don't need anything else with that. Just some buttered bread is enough. I also have our cheesecakes here. Now these need to cool. They need to cool for a good hour or so, and then pop them in the refrigerator and let them chill up. Now, you could top this with any kind of a raspberry or strawberry topping, whatever you want, or just eat them plain. Here you go, some recipes for you to try. Thank you for joining with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Get along on down the road. We got a long, long way to go. Scared to live, scared to die. We ain't perfect, but we try.